All right, in this video we are going to isolate different variables. So sometimes you have to solve for a different variable and manipulate an equation around. This is in section 1.4 in the book, so we're just going to use our basic algebra skills here. So here we go. This is the very first first example. This is something we did back in the day. So we did 2x plus 3y is equal to 9. Solve for y. So we're going to get y by itself. Why do we do that? Because when we get y by itself, it tells us the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to solve for y. So I'm going to get y by itself, which means I'm going to move over the 2x. So subtract 2x. And I get 3y is equal to negative 2x. It's a positive 9, so I write plus 9. Then I'm going to divide everything by 3 to get y by itself. So divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus 3. And there we go. Now you're going to try, I'm going to write down number 2, and you try number 2. Okay, the directions are the same. Solve for y. And pause the video, you try number 2, and then you'll get feedback to see if you did it correctly. So here we go. Let's throw a negative in there. 4x minus 2y is equal to 8. All right, so you're going to solve for y. Okay, so here's your feedback. So it's the same thing. I'm going to subtract over the 4x. And then we get negative 2y is equal to negative 4x plus 8. Now we divide everything by negative 2. And we get y is equal to 2x. A negative divided by negative is positive. 2x minus 4. And there we solve for y. And when you do that with lines, you get the slope and the y-intercept. So the first two questions were straight out of Algebra 1, and this is the beginning of the Algebra 2 book. It's in section 1.4, like I said. But this is not limited to just y equals mx plus b and doing that. You can rearrange any kind of a formula you want to. So here's number 3. A is equal to 1/2 bh. And we're going to solve for h. So we're going to get h by itself. So there's multiplication between those two and multiplication between those two. So basically you have to do some dividing to get h by itself. So try that. Okay, here we go. I don't necessarily like dividing by 1/2. I would just rather multiply by 2, because you're going to multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of fractions. So you flip the fraction upside down. So I'm going to multiply each side by 2 basically, and that gets rid of that. It becomes 1. So we have 2a is equal to b times h. All right, so what are you going to do next to get h by itself? It's b times h. So what are you going to do to get the b by itself? Or the h by itself? That's right, you're going to divide by b. So 2a divided by b is equal to h. So this was the area of a triangle. It was y equals 1/2 base times height, but I rearranged it. So now, given the area and the base, I could tell you what the height is of this triangle. So that's kind of the deal with this. If we know the area, you double it, divide by the base, and you get the height. Okay, the next one is number 4. Volume is equal to length times width times height. So length times width times height. We're going to get length times width times height. We're going to solve for w. Notice there's multiplication in between each one of those. It's length times width times height. We're going to solve for w, which means we've got to divide the two outside side things away from the w. So give that a try. And here we go. So So we're going to divide by h and divide by L. So divide by L, divide by h. So L divided by L is 1, h divided by h is 1, and you get volume is equal to LH is equal to W. I don't know why I made my W that way. There we go. Now this is a good skill for science class. Science teachers always want you to change an equation around and manipulate it in a different way. So that'll make your science teacher happy if that's possible. Number 5. Interest. We did interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Solve for R. Okay, solve for R, get R by itself. So this is like almost the exact same question. You try this one. All right, so there's multiplication in between those, just like on the last one. So we're going to divide by P and T. So I divided by P times T is equal to R. Okay, number 6. So this could just be all kinds of different things. X divided by A minus 5 is equal to B. So we're going to solve for X. We're going to get X by itself. So basically on this one here, you just pretend like that's a number, and then that's a number, and you just do numbery things to it, and then you're getting X by itself. So what makes sense to do to each side first? That's right, we're going to get rid of this. When you solve an equation, you kind of do the order of operations backwards. So we're going to take care of the subtraction first. So we're going to add that over. So X divided by A is equal to B plus 5. So it's X divided by A, X divided by A, X divided by A. And then you want to think about this as a binomial. Okay, so how do we get A by itself? Well, we do the opposite, or X by itself, we do the opposite of dividing. You're going to multiply each side by A. So we get X is equal to A times the quantity B plus 5. Okay, let's see. Ooh. Try this one here. Number 7. 2 times the quantity X plus 3 is equal to G. And we want to solve for X. Solve for X. So we get X by itself. That's a G, so it's not a number. So you're not going to be able to like subtract a number from it. You have to represent it. So try that one. And here's your feedback. You have choices here. You could divide each side by 2 first, or you could distribute the 2 through the parentheses. So it's 2x plus 6 if you choose to distribute is equal to G. I'm putting a lot of curve on that, so we all know that's a G. Okay, what makes sense to do next? Going to get X by itself, so you want to take care of the 6 next, right? Okay, so we're going to subtract 6 on each side. We get 2x is equal to G minus 6. Now we're going to divide everything by 2. So X is equal to G divided by 2, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's minus 3. All right, here's a formula from geometry. This would be number 8, I believe. Yes, number 8. So here's a formula from geometry. It is the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 the height times base 1 plus base 2. We want to solve for base 2. So you want to get B2 by itself. All right. So you're going to take care of the half here. I'm going to do like I did in that other one. I'm going to multiply the 2 over. And then I don't necessarily want to distribute here. I want to go ahead and divide that h over. And then I can move the b over. So give that a try, and then let's go through it together and see what happens. All right. right, so we're going to multiply each side of the equation by 2. So 2a is equal to h times the quantity b1 plus b2. Now I could distribute the h through the parentheses, but I choose not to. So I'm going to divide by h on each side. 2a divided by h is equal to b1 plus b2. So I have b1 plus b2. I just got to get b2 by itself, so I got to subtract that over, right? So 2a divided by h minus b1 is equal to b2. And these can be any level of difficulty. Here's number 9. This would be I believe, a surface area question. So it's a geometry question. 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. We're going to solve for h. So this would be a geometry question that you'd manipulate around. So s is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So basically, when you get to the end on here, you need to understand that there's multiplication happening here. So all that stuff can be divided back over. But this needs to be subtracted over first. So you're going to move that over. That's an s, not a 5. And then divide these three things away from the h, because it's this times this times h. So divide those away from h. So give that the old Harvard try. Alright, and here is the answer. So we're going to subtract over the 2 pi r, subtract over the 2 pi r squared. So it's s minus 2 pi r squared is equal to 2 pi r h. Okay, that's correct. Now remember, there's multiplication between all these, so you just want to divide them away. So divide the 2, the pi, and the r. Divide by the 2, the pi, and the r. So cancel, 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 and h is by itself. So s minus 2 pi r squared over 2 pi r is equal to h, and that's by itself now. Okay, number 10. That was 9. Okay, so here's number 10. So I wrote this one down. C times the quantity x plus 2 minus 5 is equal to b times x minus 3, parentheses, solve for x. And I paused the video and restarted it, so I might have skipped over something. So if it was kind of weird there for a second, oops. So c times x is cx, c times 2 is 2c, minus 5 is equal to b times x is bx minus 3b. So we got to get the x's on the same side and numbers on the other side. So I'm going to subtract over the bx, because I'm going to get the x's on the same side. Oops, bx, not 2x. So I'm subtracting over bx. And then I'm going to subtract these two and add that one over. So subtract over 2c, add over 5. Subtract over 2c, add over 5. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing here, isn't it? So that cancels out, that cancels out. Those don't. Those kind of go together. cx minus bx is equal to, this canceled out because it moved over, and then these just get written down. Minus 3b minus 2c plus 5. Now, if we're going to get x by itself, we have to factor the x out. We have to factor the x out. So it's going to be x times c minus b is equal to minus 3b minus 2c plus 5. So we're going to divide over the c minus b, divide over the c minus b. So that cancels out, and there's the answer. That's what x is equal to. Okay, let's try one more that looks kind of like this, and then we'll call this video a day. So here's number 11. You're going to solve for x on this one as well. Let's do one that's kind of the same here. So it's going to be b times 5px minus 3c, close the parentheses, is equal to a times qx minus 4. Alright, so you're going to kind of do it the same way. You're going to distribute, get the x's on one side, factor the x out, divide everything back. So give that a try. So here we go, solving for x. Distribute through 5bpx minus 3bc is equal to a times this would be aqx minus 4a. So basically I want to get the x's on the same side and this part over here. So it's going to switch these two. So I'm going to subtract over the aq. So write 5bpx, subtract this over, minus aqx, add that over, 3bc minus 4a. So all of that represents numbers, right? Then I'm going to factor out the x, so it's x times 5bp minus aq is equal to 3bc minus 4a. Then this is multiplication, so I divide that over. So x is equal to, see there's multiplication right here, right there. So then I'm going to divide that thing over, so it's 3bc minus 4a over 5bp minus aq. And now you can all take a deep breath.